So this spreadsheet contains data about federal government websites. So this is real data downloaded from data.gov for website browsing data in 2018. So the data came with a subdomain like tools.usps.com. So I assume that tools is going to be for doing things like checking how much postage something is going to cost. Very highly used domain. Then we have nhc.noaa.gov. If you live on the Gulf Coast, I used to live in Houston, Texas. I knew this website very well. I'd check it about once a day. It's the National Hurricane Center. So you would check this to see if any hurricanes are heading your way, so you could take precautions. Lots of other interesting websites here. I wanted to just extract the main domain. So instead of tools.usps.com, I just wanted usps.com, like I have here in column B. Well, let's take a look at the formula there. I got this answer. I had to Google how to figure out how to extract this domain. I tried my hand at a couple queries. Google brought me to this one Stack Overflow page, which somebody had posted this formula, and holy moly, it is a long formula, very complex, but works flawlessly. This is a pretty ridiculous formula just for extracting the main domain, but hey, there it is. Why am I showing that to you? Well, number one, use Google to find formulas that people have already created if you're struggling to create something. Number two, you can do quite a bit if you know how to work your way around Excel's text functions. Okay, so we've got a subdomain, domain, the number of visits, the number of page views. So you might visit a website, view a single page, and just close your tab. How many different users went there, the average page views per session, how long that session typically was, and exits. How many people left from there? Okay, so let's take a look at this data. I can select anywhere here. Now I'm going to go to Insert, Pivot Table. It's going to select all that data for me, which is fine. I want to put this on a new worksheet because this worksheet's already pretty full. Now, what did the question want us to look for? So if I look at data again and scroll to the top, I've got over 3,000 rows of data. It's quite a bit. Federal government is busy creating websites. So we want to explore domains and users. Okay, so I've got domain here. I'll put that as my rows. And you can see just main domains. I've still got quite a few. Still got a couple hundred. Even summarizing it just by top level domain. Or sorry, domain, not the .gov or .com part. And I'm going to put users as the columns. And, sorry, users as the values. Probably don't want users as my columns. That's not going to make much sense. Okay, now we've got all these websites. We've got all these users. I don't like the formatting of that user, so I'm going to click that down arrow. Come to value field settings, number format, number, no decimal places, but I want that comma separator. That's going to help me make a lot more sense of this data. Click OK and OK. That's good. Now we can see the millions and thousands, all that stuff, a lot easier. So we've got some websites with a whole bunch of people here. But there are more sites underneath that domain. So if I want to show subdomains, I can drag that let's really drag it into my rows. So I'm going to have domain and then the subdomains that each of those domains belong to. So I honestly couldn't tell you what 18f.gov does, but I can see inside 18f.gov there's methods.18f.gov, handbook.18f.gov, and I can see which of those sites is most popular. So methods apparently is the most popular. And I can go through for every website and see the statistics now organized by subdomain. I'm going to flip back to my data. It's not in its raw format. It would be difficult to analyze this way. Like if you sorted just by subdomain, like let's do that. Let's see if we're trying to just sort A to Z. I get, you know, a bunch of numbers at the top, but for various domains. So my domains aren't ordered. I could sort by domain, that would work. That is another way I could start to look at this data. But with pivot tables, I can do more powerful things here. Not just summing users, I can do quite a bit more. So take a look at this, see what you can do with this pivot table. There's some small things that you can do. Just, whoops, I'm going to click inside my pivot table. Instead of choosing sum, so it's summarizing all of this data, I might, for example, want to find the least popular subdomain. So I'm going to go to value field settings. Instead of sum, let's look for the minimum. And so I can see that for 18f.gov, my least popular site has 939 users. We actually have a few. Strange number to have show up quite so frequently, but this is real data from the US government, so it has to be correct, right? Just one thing we potentially might want to do. We can collapse some of these to make our analysis easier. All kind of depends what you want to do with this data. This is just one example of what you could do with this web data.